Imagine standing in front of an ancient artifact that has baffled scientists, historians, and researchers for centuries. The Shroud of Turin, a linen cloth with a faint image of a man, carries mysteries far beyond its threads. At first glance, it appears like any other worn historical fabric. But as the light hits it from the right angle, a ghostly figure begins to appear, the form of a man who endured extreme suffering, his body imprinted on the cloth with a level of detail no human hand could have crafted. This figure matches every description of Jesus Christ's crucifixion as told in the Bible. What makes it truly astonishing is that modern science still cannot explain how the image got there. For years, skeptics dismissed the shroud as a medieval hoax. Early carbon dating tests suggested the cloth was from the Middle Ages, around 700 years old. However, technology has advanced since that initial test, and recent breakthroughs have unveiled results that sent shockwaves through the scientific community. New X-ray imaging has dated the fibers of the shroud to the 1st century, placing it directly in the timeline of Jesus Christ's crucifixion. This discovery has forced many researchers to reconsider everything they once believed. The image on the shroud isn't made of paint, dye, or any substance commonly used for art. A sudden, intense burst of radiation appears to have created it, leaving behind a detailed 3-dimensional representation of the man it covered. The process that caused this is so advanced that even with today's technology, it is impossible to replicate. Scientists working with high-powered lasers have tried to recreate the effect and failed. The energy required to burn such an image into cloth without damaging the underlying fibers would surpass anything available even in modern laboratories. He also carries more than just an image. Tests confirm the presence of real human blood, specifically type AB, a rare blood group found in the Middle East and frequently identified in other religious relics linked to Jesus. His blood contains high levels of bilirubin, a chemical that appears when a person endures extreme physical trauma. The man in the shroud did not die a peaceful death. His body was brutalized, consistent with descriptions of scourging and crucifixion from ancient Roman practices. Bloodstains on the wrists and feet align perfectly with the accounts of nails driven through the flesh during Jesus' crucifixion. The pattern of the wounds suggests that the victim was whipped from multiple angles, consistent with the use of Roman flagrum whips that had metal or bone tips designed to tear into flesh. The blood flows show clear signs of gravity, indicating the victim was suspended vertically at the time of death. These details provide an almost forensic-level account of suffering identical to that described in the Gospels. Advanced imaging technology has revealed an even more perplexing feature. The shroud's image is 3-dimensional. Photographs are typically 2-dimensional, capturing height and width, but no depth. However, when researchers fed images of the shroud into a VP8 image analyzer, a device initially designed to map landscapes from satellite photographs, they discovered something extraordinary. The image produced a 3D representation of the man's face and body. This depth effect suggests that the image was formed by radiation or energy emitted from the body itself, with the intensity of the image corresponding to the distance between the cloth and the skin. Scientists specializing in radiation physics have explored this anomaly, comparing the energy required to produce the shroud's image with known energy sources. The best hypothesis involves a momentary release of ultraviolet light so intense that it would require technology more advanced than what humanity possesses today. This light appears to have burned the image into the uppermost fibers of the linen without penetrating deeper layers. The closest comparison involves high-intensity lasers, yet even the most advanced equipment has failed to recreate the shroud's details. Remember to join our community by subscribing to this channel. Historical records trace the shroud's existence as far back as the Byzantine Empire, where it was known as the Image of Edessa. Artworks from the 6th century depict Jesus in ways that closely resemble the facial features seen on the shroud. The cloth's journey through history is marked by intrigue and tragedy. It was hidden during periods of persecution, survived a fire in a French chapel in 1532, and eventually found its resting place in Turin, Italy, where it remains preserved behind bulletproof glass. The Shroud of Turin, housed in the Royal Chapel of the Cathedral of St. John the Baptist in Turin, Italy, has captivated humanity for centuries. It is believed to be the linen burial cloth that wrapped the body of Jesus Christ after his crucifixion. This sacred relic, measuring 4.4 meters long and 1.1 meters wide, has been preserved and protected since 1578. However, it wasn't until the 20th and 21st centuries that science revealed secrets hidden within its fibers, secrets that continue to perplex even the most skeptical researchers. In 1898, Italian photographer Secondo Pia took the first official photograph of the shroud. When he developed the negatives, he was stunned to see a detailed image of a man's face emerge. This discovery marked the beginning of a scientific journey that spanned decades. Once dismissed as religious folklore, it became an artifact of global curiosity. By the late 1970s, a team of scientists known as the Shroud of Turin Research Project, STURP, conducted an in-depth examination. Over 5 days in 1978, these researchers employed advanced imaging techniques, ultraviolet photography, and infrared analysis to uncover the origins of the mysterious image. The shroud bore no traces of paint, pigment, or dye. The image had been formed by something that scorched the outermost fibers of the linen, leaving the inner layers untouched. Further investigations revealed traces of human blood on the fabric. Dr. John Heller and Alan Adler, renowned biophysicists, confirmed the presence of hemoglobin and bilirubin, substances that become elevated when a person experiences severe trauma. The wounds depicted in the shroud matched the historical accounts of Roman crucifixion: puncture marks at the wrists and feet, a bloodied scalp consistent with a crown of thorns, and lash marks across the back. The scientific evidence aligned with the biblical narrative of Jesus Christ's suffering. A small corner of the shroud underwent radiocarbon dating tests in 1988. Laboratories in Oxford, Zurich, and Tucson concluded that the cloth originated between 1260 and 1390 AD, suggesting it was a medieval forgery. Skeptics rejoiced. They dismissed the shroud as a historical hoax. But decades later, the story took a darker turn. In 2013, scientists from Italy's National Agency for New Technologies, Energy and Sustainable Economic Development, ENEA, revealed that the sample used for the original carbon dating had likely been taken from a section repaired in the Middle Ages. Their findings indicated that the linen fibers of the main cloth were significantly older. To replicate the image, the researchers experimented with ultraviolet laser bursts and discovered something terrifying, producing an imprint with the same characteristics as the shroud required, an energy output of 34 billion watts. Such technology did not exist in the 1300s. It doesn't even exist today. The radiation theory, though controversial, aligns with ancient accounts of the resurrection. The Gospels describe a blinding divine light when Jesus rose from the tomb. The shroud's image, formed by a brief, intense burst of radiation, corresponds eerily with that event. This hypothesis suggests the shroud was not crafted by human hands, but created through an event beyond current scientific understanding. Historians have connected the shroud to 1st century Jerusalem based on microscopic pollen analysis. Botanists Max Frey and Avinoam Danin identified pollen grains from plants native to the region, including Gundalia tourneforti, a species that blooms near the Dead Sea and the Jordan River. The linen's herringbone weave pattern also matched textiles used in ancient Jewish burial customs. This phenomenon emerges at a time when the world faces unprecedented turmoil. Across the Middle East, conflicts continue to escalate. In 2021, satellite images confirmed that the Euphrates River, once a mighty biblical landmark, was drying at alarming rates. According to the Book of Revelation, the drying of this river signals the beginning of catastrophic global events. The simultaneous resurgence of interest in him and the fulfillment of ancient prophecies has stirred unease among believers. Eschatology, the study of the end times, has intrigued theologians and scholars for centuries. It examines prophecies from religious texts like the Bible, seeking connections between past predictions and present-day events. The Shroud of Turin becomes particularly significant in this context because of its connection to Jesus Christ and the potential symbolic meaning of its modern-day validation through advanced science. The Bible, particularly the Book of Revelation, contains vivid descriptions of events said to signal the world's approaching conclusion. Among these signs is the drying of the Euphrates River, a geographical feature that has sustained life and civilizations for millennia. Recent satellite imagery confirms that the Euphrates is shrinking at an unprecedented rate, revealing ancient structures and caves that have remained hidden for centuries. This natural transformation mirrors Revelation 16:12, which describes the river drying up to prepare the way for the kings of the east. Climate experts attribute the river's decline to rising temperatures, dam construction, and shifting rainfall patterns. However, believers perceive this as not just an environmental change, but also a biblical warning. This intersection of observable natural phenomena and ancient predictions adds a layer of intrigue to the shroud's sudden resurgence in global discussions. The emergence of new evidence regarding the shroud coincides with a period of global instability. The 21st century has seen an increase in armed conflicts, pandemics, and natural disasters. In Matthew 24:6-7, Jesus warns of wars, rumors of wars, famines, and earthquakes as precursors to more significant events. In recent years, the Middle East, a region deeply intertwined with biblical history, has witnessed escalating tensions and territorial disputes. These events evoke a sense of historical repetition, connecting ancient warnings to current realities. The shroud itself, preserved for centuries in Turin, stands as an artifact of suffering and sacrifice. Bloodstains align with the biblical account of Jesus' crucifixion, including the crown of thorns, the pierced side, and the wounds from scourging. Yet its sudden relevance in a time of global unrest has sparked debate among scholars. Some theologians suggest that the rediscovery and scientific validation of the shroud represent a prophetic reminder. The prophetic story surrounding the shroud extends beyond its historical and religious significance. Advanced imaging techniques, including the VP8 image analyzer, revealed three-dimensional properties within the shroud's image, an effect unmatched by any other historical relic. Scientists from Sandia National Laboratories, originally skeptical of its authenticity, were perplexed by the complexity of the image's formation. Theories of radiation bursts or electromagnetic energy align curiously with descriptions of divine light from biblical resurrection accounts. Are you enjoying the story? Support our channel by clicking the subscribe button. The connection between prophecy and the shroud becomes even more compelling when considering the historical context. During the crucifixion, darkness allegedly covered the land and an earthquake shook Jerusalem. Geological surveys of sediment layers near the Dead Sea confirm seismic activity around 33 AD, the traditionally accepted date of Christ's death. These natural occurrences recorded in Scripture are supported by geological data gathered nearly 2,000 years later. Eschatological discussions often reference global patterns that mirror ancient warnings. Prophecies predicting environmental upheavals, moral decay, and societal division resonate strongly in today's world. The shroud, as a tangible physical artifact, bridges the gap between abstract prophecy and material evidence. Its existence challenges skeptics who dismiss religious predictions as mere superstition. In addition to environmental shifts, religious scholars point to technological advancements as part of prophetic fulfillment. The book of Daniel mentions knowledge increasing in the final days. The AI-based reconstruction of Jesus' face from the shroud's image demonstrates the technological leap that allows humanity to glimpse the past with unprecedented clarity. The shroud's presence in a digital age, where information travels instantly across continents, aligns with the notion of a world interconnected like never before. The appearance of the shroud alongside current global events adds a psychological dimension to the discussion. Fear, skepticism, and curiosity intertwine as people witness the convergence of ancient predictions and modern discoveries. This fear trigger, amplified by social media, magnifies his impact. The artifact, once confined to religious texts and historical archives, now occupies a central role in public discourse about the intersection of science, faith, and the potential unfolding of prophecy. Long before the Shroud of Turin became famous, there were ancient stories about another sacred relic, the Mandylion of Edessa. This relic was described as a cloth bearing the miraculous image of a man's face, an image said to have appeared without the touch of human hands. The Greek word for this phenomenon is archaeologist, which means not made by human hands. According to legend, the Mandylion originated in the ancient city of Edessa, which is today called Şanlıurfa in modern-day Turkey. The story says that King Abgar of Edessa, who was sick and desperate for a cure, wrote a letter to Jesus asking for his help. Jesus replied, promising to send one of his disciples. The disciple, named Thaddeus, later arrived with the Mandylion, a cloth imprinted with Jesus' face. When the king saw the image, he was healed, and the city of Edessa became one of the first centers of Christianity. This event was recorded in historical texts as early as the 4th century. They then hid the Mandylion for centuries to protect it from invaders. It was kept inside the city walls of Edessa, carefully guarded like a priceless treasure. The Mandylion remained in Edessa until 944 AD. In that year, Byzantine Emperor Romanos I sent an army to bring the relic to Constantinople, the empire's capital, which is modern-day Istanbul. The transfer of the Mandylion was celebrated with grand ceremonies, and the cloth was placed in the Hagia Sophia, the empire's most magnificent church. The Byzantines considered it a powerful relic. They believed it protected the city from enemies and carried divine power. Records from the time describe the cloth as not only showing Jesus' face, but also bearing marks of his suffering. Some historians believe that the Mandylion was folded, showing only the face, but was, in fact, the full-length Shroud of Turin folded into a frame. For over 2 centuries he remained in Constantinople. Then came the Fourth Crusade. In 1204, Christian knights from Western Europe attacked Constantinople instead of fighting their enemies in the Holy Land. The city was brutally sacked, its churches and palaces looted. The Mandylion vanished during the chaos. Historical accounts from crusaders mention a cloth that matched the Mandylion's description. Many scholars believe that the relic was taken to Europe during the sack of Constantinople. The exact details remain a mystery, but some records suggest it was carried to France by a group of knights known as the Knights Templar, a secretive and powerful military order. The Knights Templar are often linked to the Shroud's journey from Constantinople to France. This group of knights was originally formed to protect Christian pilgrims traveling to Jerusalem. Over time, they grew wealthy and influential, collecting artifacts they believed to be sacred. After the fall of Constantinople, some believe the Templars took possession of the Mandylion, transporting it across Europe until it was given to Geoffroy de Charny, whose family had connections to the Templar order. In 1314, the Templars were disbanded, and their leader, Jacques de Molay, was burned at the stake. Legends say that before their fall, the knights hid the shroud to protect it from destruction. The Shroud of Turin shares remarkable similarities with descriptions of the historical texts describe the Mandylion as showing only Jesus' face, while the shroud depicts his entire body. Some researchers believe the Mandylion was simply the shroud, folded in such a way that only the face was visible. The fabric type, herringbone weave, matches textiles produced in the Middle East during the 1st century. Pollen analysis supports this theory as well. Botanists have discovered pollen from plants that only grow near Jerusalem, further connecting the shroud to ancient Judea. Traces of pollen from Constantinople and France also align with its documented historical journey. If you are enjoying this story, click the Super Thanks button. By supporting this content, you're helping to bring more discoveries to light, keeping the search for truth alive. The Shroud of Turin is more than just an ancient piece of cloth. It is a silent enigma woven with threads of history, faith, and scientific intrigue. Its existence challenges the imagination, inviting us to look beyond the surface of what we think we know. Across centuries, through wars and fires, the Shroud has endured. Its journey from the streets of Edessa to the Cathedral of Turin mirrors humanity's own relentless quest for answers. Science, with its sharp tools and precise measurements, has peeled back some of the layers. High-tech imaging methods, X-rays, and microscopic examinations have shown previously unknown facts, such as the presence of real human blood, the image's perfect accuracy in showing anatomy, and the strange radiation-like pattern that can't be replicated with today's technology. The man on the shroud bears the marks of trauma, wounds that align with the biblical description of Jesus' crucifixion. His face, serene despite the brutality endured, seems to whisper across millennia. The fabric itself defies explanation. Attempts to recreate the image using ultraviolet lasers have failed. The power required to etch such an imprint would surpass any natural or technological process known today. Historians trace its lineage back to the mysterious Mandylion of Edessa, while theologians point to the resurrection moment described in Scripture. Science remains suspended between skepticism and awe, confronted by a relic that seems to defy the laws of nature. In a time when technology dominates daily life, this simple linen cloth forces a pause. It draws attention to the fragile nature of knowledge, the limits of human understanding, and the mysteries that time refuses to erase. Scientific tools have illuminated parts of its story, but the core mystery remains untouched. Thanks for watching. Join our community by subscribing to this channel. Until the next video.